I have often heard it said that the fall of the Roman Empire was brought about by a string of incompetent emperors who were usually weak-minded and did not know how to run such a large and complex institution, hence leading to inflation, barbarian invasions, and civil wars. But for a while, I have considered this statement thoroughly, and have come to the conclusion that it was perhaps not the actions of a series of men in one time period, but the actions of select individuals over different epochs. The first of these individuals is Septimius Severus. What is that, you say? Not Severus. He is a great war hero who saved the empire from total disintegration, who neutralized the Parthians and went head to head with the Picts. Surely he cannot be responsible for Rome's downfall. Well, I am afraid to tell you that Severus as an emperor is not as great as popular media makes him out to be. There were many reforms under his reign, yes, but his actions would ultimately lead to the crisis of the 3rd century, despite him being indirect and decades away. But first, we must discuss the state of the empire which Severus founded in when he rose to power. In the 170s, the Roman Empire was on the backwater. A series of costly and devastating wars with the Marcomanni and Quadi tribes were ongoing, who penetrated deep into Roman lands and even sacking important cities such as Aquincum. Marcus Aurelius and his generals were barely able to repulse these terrible invaders. Around the same time, a grievous plague broke out, probably smallpox, after being carried back from the east after a Parthian campaign. It killed Marcus's co-ruler Lucius Severus and left him without a successor. After the plague finally dissipated in the late 170s, Marcus was forced to choose Commodus as his successor and co-ruler when he became ill himself whilst on campaign on the Danube. Commodus was, as we are aware, a volatile and poor ruler who hurt the empire and was partly responsible for the destruction of the Pax Romana. He was assassinated in 192, and the Praetorian prefect Pertinax ascended. He too was murdered by his own men when he vowed to dock their immense privileges that they enjoyed under Commodus. The empire was then put up for auction, and the scheming senator Didius Julianus took the costly offer. He was never able to pay the money, and, faced with internal strife and economic problems, was murdered by Septimius Severus, the governor of Syria. Very quickly, 3 new men aspired to seize the throne. They included Pescennius Niger, a general, Clodius Albinus, former governor of Britain, and Severus. Niger was defeated and killed in 194 by the joint forces of Albinus and Severus. Severus had convinced Albinus that if he supported him, he would make him co-emperor. However, in 196, Albinus, who had his own ideas and probably suspected that Severus was lying to him, rebelled. Severus defeated him at Lyon and became sole emperor in 197. But Severus was not a fair player. He had consistently bribed both his own and Albinus' men to join/remain on his side. To do this, he needed to raise the standard legionary pay to an astonishing 450 denarii per year. To maintain his large army, he debased the Roman currency. Upon his ascension, he decreased the silver purity of denarius, causing inflation to increase in the early 3rd century. We thus see the first signs of bribery being normalized by the emperors, and was a practice continued by Severus' son Caracalla, who was infamous for his maneuvers with the soldiery in this way. Severus also partook in notorious political maneuvers with anyone who opposed him. During the Parthian campaign, Severus executed a centurion who said that the legions were being sacrificed for one man's ambitions. He also replaced many senators who disagreed with him because they assumed he was turning Rome into a military dictatorship and limiting their powers, which inspired Caracalla to undertake his insane murders of anyone who opposed him. So as we can see, Severus not only normalized the system of king-making, which involved bribing the army to support a usurper, but also virtually endorsed political tyranny by the use of removal/murders, which was a system that became commonplace in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th centuries, and ultimately, because of the endless usurpers and civil wars, was one of the reasons for the fall of the West, and incidentally the East. His actions led to his successors having troubles maintaining power. For example, Severus Alexander, the last member of the Severan dynasty, was deposed not because of his weakness, but because of his inability to pay his soldiers to ensure their loyalty. And how could he? The economy was breaking down due to the spiraling inflation of the 3rd century, and hence Maximinus Thrax took his place. But even he could not pay his soldiers, and was deposed by another usurper, Gordian I, who himself had his reign ended to usurpation. Look at this graph of the rate of inflation in the 3rd century. It is disastrous. and can only be explained by the footsteps of Severus, which his descendants, whether by choice or the absolute need to, had to follow in, and the recurring civil wars caused by the inflation led to the split of the Gallic and Palmyrene empires, as this was how powerful the usurpers had become. However, while I may have spent the majority of this video discussing the bad points of Severus, he did do good things, but the things he caused as a result of his more questionable actions completely dwarf the good legacy of him. There is nothing redeeming about Severus. If he had not constantly bribed the soldiers for their loyalty, gone on disastrous campaigns only to heighten his own image and murder political opponents, then perhaps Edward Gibbon, who is usually wrong about many Roman emperors, would not speak so badly of him. But as this is YouTube, with the ability for anyone to voice their opinions, I'll let you decide in the comments if Severus deserved the backlash I and others have given him. While he may have been indirectly responsible for the crisis of the 3rd century, I do not think that out of the emperors I will cover in later videos, Justinian and Manuel, that he was solely responsible for the fall of Rome. Indeed, many later emperors were far worse, and others far better, because Rome did not fall in the 3rd century. Instead, it survived thanks to the likes of Gallienus, Claudius Gothicus, Aurelian, Probus, and Diocletian. As I said earlier, let me know in the comments what you think about Severus, and thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, I'd be even more grateful if you liked and subscribe, as it helps a lot. With that said, I'll see you all in the next video.